Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. The topic that was allotted to me is reflections on the Mengerian heritage, to which I myself added the subtitle with special reference to economic methodology, which I did in order to delve more into something I do know something about. I mean, not necessarily a lot, but something, because I'm a philosopher and a political scientist, not an economist. So here's the agenda of my talk. The first part will be dedicated to the said book that is about to be launched by Institute Mises. I shall also tell a few words about why you should look forward to reading it. And in the second part of my presentation, I shall tackle the question Menger versus Mises, or better put, Menger versus Misesian. That is, I shall present to you a few remarks on how Menger and Misesians, that is, Ludwig von Mises and his followers, sort of part company in the field of methodology. That is to say, how Misesians differ from Menger in that field. So here's the cover of the book. The title reads, Long Live the Revolution, 150 years of Karl Menger's principles of economics. Like Mikołaj said, the book is going to be translated into English soon, so you will have a chance to read it. And here are the contents. As you can see, the contents are very versatile and interdisciplinary, which I believe reflects the scope of Mengerian theoretical heritage. So let's start with two very pertinent and timely pieces on monetary theory. First, we have Debt and the Origins of Money by Przemysław Rabka, which is a response to the challenge posed by the modern monetary theory, according to which the Mengerian theorem about money arising out of commodity market cannot truly explain the origins of money, as Przemysław Rabka points out. The exact opposite is the case, and the Mengerian theorem holds true, the MMT challenge notwithstanding. Secondly, we have Bitcoin from the Mengerian perspective by Łukasz Jasiński, again a very timely one, tackling the challenge coming from the Austrian side this time. Some Austrians claim that the emergence of Bitcoin cannot be explained in light of the Mengerian theorem. However, as Łukasz Jasiński points out, again, the exact opposite is the case, and the Mengerian theorem still holds true. We also have a piece on social theory, which is Jakub Wiśniewski's Spontaneity and Social Cooperation. We also have a few articles that apply the Mengerian theoretical legacy to contemporary problems of economics, Karol Zdybel's anti-common selected applications, as well as Robert Ciborowski's technical development and economic growth. We also have a piece on history of economic thought, Menger and Unaware Revolutionary by Professor Witold Kwaśnicki, which I believe is a quite revisionist one, in that it calls into question the commonplace belief according to which the marginalist revolution was something that happened all of a sudden, all at once. Rather, as Witold Kwaśnicki points out, the marginalist breakthrough was foreshadowed by numerous economists who've delivered their books prior to Menger, Jevons, and Valra. And finally, we have my favorite topic, which is methodology and philosophy of economics. Here we have Krzysztof's, Karl Menger's philosophical inspirations, which again is sort of revisionist in that it calls into question yet another commonplace view, namely the one holding that Menger, philosophically speaking, was an Aristotelian. As Krzysztof points out, it's not quite the case. In reality, Menger's philosophical position was much more nuanced and somewhat more modern than this commonplace view seems to imply. And finally, we have the contribution of mine, Mengerian Untersuchungen, excuse me, and the methodological development of the Austrian school, which brings me to the second part of my talk. So let's start with what almost goes without saying. I'm saying almost because, after all, I'm telling you all that stuff. So it goes without saying, almost, that Menger and Misesians do share the following fundamental positions. Yes, both camps, so to speak, believe in the primacy of theory over historical experience, which, as you probably know, was the very bone of contention in the famous Methodenstreit. Both sides believe in the nomothetic status of statements of the economic theory. And last but not least, both sides promote methodological individualism and subjectivism. And those are the platitudes, so to say. There's much more to it, however. Sorry. Let's start with a quote from Ludwig von Mises commenting on Menger as a methodologist. As you can see, Mises actually didn't speak particularly highly of Menger's methodological legacy. And here is why. Excuse me, because I'm not sure if I've given you the chance to read the whole quote. In short, Mises says that Menger was somewhat backward methodologically. Here is why Mises could have said such horrible words about his master. Here we have a brief tabular summary of 4 crucial divergences between Menger and Misesians, all of which pertain to the field of economic methodology. First off, that's the first cell, the first part of the table. In contradistinction to Misesians, Menger believes in methodological unity of all sciences, social and natural. And this unity consists in there being 2 principal orientations of research, the exact and the realistic empirical one, both present in all branches of science, from physics to economics. The exact orientation starts with theoretical modeling. Mind you, not with a priori axioms, as Ludwig von Mises would like to have it, but with theoretical modeling, and then proceeds deductively, thus arriving at specific theorems having the status of universally valid laws of phenomena. The realistic empirical orientation, on the other hand, commences with observable data in order to collect it and sort of synthesize it inductively, not deductively, but inductively. Moreover, Menger postulates that in economics there also be such inductive or statistical generalizations, along with deductive theorems, such as the law of demand or the law of imputation, although Menger doesn't adduce any particular examples here. Secondly, Menger, unlike Misesians again, was by no means a consistent a priorist. That exact deductive part of economics theory is, per Menger, arrived at by dint of the Homo economicus model, which is evinced by Menger's definition of economy as the precautionary activity of humans directed toward covering their material needs. Further, in contrast to later Austrians, Menger maintains that even the most fundamental economic laws, like the law of demand or the law of imputation, hold true only under the assumption of economic actors being rational and self-interested. This, in turn, makes Menger a moderate conventionalist, even though he believes that the motive of self-interest is a prevalent and, so to say, ubiquitous tendency of human nature. It is still just a commonsensical observation that needn't be correct everywhere and forever. It is open for future revision, that is. Thus, economic laws, per Menger, are ultimately established by means of a convention, of a certain convention, the Homo economicus convention, that is. Thirdly, that's the third part of the summary, where Mises and Misesians see a sharp contradistinction or sharp opposition between the praxeological theory on the one hand and the history on the other. Menger sees continuity. Again, by virtue of his exact versus realistic empirical distinction, Menger holds that elements of both theory and history, because the realistic empirical orientation is sort of historical in the Misesian sense, are to be found in all sciences. And finally, Menger kind of surprisingly concurs with the German historical school that at least history must adapt what he terms the collective point of view. That is, history must take the totality of a given nation's or people's, folks' life as the ultimate given of the analysis without any need of foregoing back to the individual. This, again, in sharp contradistinction to Mises and Misesians, makes Menger a methodological holist in the field of historical science. Now, to conclude, why is all this of not only historical interest? Well, unlike Mises, I do believe that Menger's distinctiveness vis-à-vis his successors is a true heritage in that it might still inspire us to pose relevant and critical questions. And here we have three examples of such critical questions that might possibly contradict the prevalent Misesian orthodoxy. So first, is the Austrian method truly a priori? Or maybe Austrians must espouse some form of conventionalism. Parenthetically, that was exactly the topic of Alexander Linz-Bichler's outstanding book titled precisely, Was Ludwig von Mises a Conventionalist? So as you can see, the debate is still lively, still open. Second, even if the former is the case, that is, even if the Austrian method is truly a priori, is praxeology all there is in the realm of social theory? For example, just take Mises's theory of bureaucracy. I think it is crystal clear that what this theory offers is not a purely praxeological reasoning, but rather an applied one. based, let's say, on several substantive assumptions regarding the motivation of bureaucrats. For example, they're not being selfless angels or selfless benefactors of mankind. Or think about Noam Chomsky's generative grammar theory, or any paradigm of DIR theory, or general sociology as such, or general linguistics as such. All those fields, while clearly theoretical, under Mises's very restrictive approach, would have to be relegated to the realm of history as they lack any praxeological background. Thus, it seems that here Menger might have a point. Austrians definitely need some theory of such, so to say, intermediary disciplines. For example, how do we formulate such theory as, for example, the realist theory of international relations, or Noam Chomsky's generative grammar theory? How do we arrive at their theorems? How do we validate or invalidate them? Those are the questions that such Austrian theory, such Austrian amended methodology should address. And finally, is methodological individualism applicable to all branches of social sciences? Even though Mises's praxeology seems to have proven that starting from methodologically individualist axioms, such as the action axioms, is indeed the way to go in economics, it is still an open question whether the same goes for history, whether it is not the case that in history we need a more totalistic, so to speak, approach. I mean, one starting from the totality of the conditions of the life of a given nation or people, as Menger would like to have it. We all know that Mises wrote a book dedicated specifically to those problems. I mean, his theory and history. But the book, at least with respect to history, basically reiterates the German tradition of the Verstehen methodology and theory. And obviously, from then on, a lot happened in this field. So I do believe that maybe following Menger, our Austrian theory, our Austrian methodology, does need some adjustments in this field. Thank you very much for your attention.